Hello and welcome to our Google Hangout with Mentor Graphics and Digi-Key Corporation. We're going to be talking today about reference designs, and joining me is Jim Martins from Mentor Graphics and myself, Jeremy Purcell from Digi-Key. And we've got Dave Brady joining us remotely. He's got a few comments. Why don't you go ahead and take it away, Dave?
Recently, a designer schematic and layout user, Tom Hurst, posted questions to Digi-Key's TechXchange community asking for assistance importing a linear technologies reference design into designer schematic. We took the opportunity to interview Tom to better understand his design context and objectives, as well as to provide designer usage tips that would accelerate his design completion. Here is an excerpt from the interview with Tom.
I have a background working on community service with community emergency response team and some of the community emergency communication teams. And that's what got me interested in this particular item, as being able to supply power for radios and equipment in case of a power outage or for whatever reason we might need to use it.
Working with Tom revealed there are common steps every design engineer must progress through in order to leverage a reference design. The steps are conceptually PCB design tool independent and reference design independent. The fundamental challenges are converting the reference design source format. Component suppliers don't publish the reference designs in every EDA format. In fact, the linear technology reference design has a Cadence OrCAD schematic and a Mentor Graphics PADS physical layout. Component validation. It's not uncommon to find that the parts in the reference design are either out of stock or out of production. One of the key steps in reference design reuse is updating the component bill of materials to reflect currently available components. Reference design comprehension. If you are going to use the reference design as is for low volume products, it's usually more cost effective to purchase the demonstration board from the component manufacturer. If you want to modify the reference design to align with your product requirements, then you need to understand how the reference design works. In this Digi-Key and Mentor Graphics Designer Schematic and Layout Hangout, we will show you how to quickly prepare a reference design for your project. Our recommended first step is to create a new designer schematic project and then import the linear technology reference design source schematic as is. Designer schematic provides a great deal of flexibility in the import process. For now, we will simply use the out-of-the-box default settings so that we may quickly begin a preliminary design review. Once the design is imported, select everything in the schematic and then take a look at the properties. By selecting all of the components, Designer Schematic Properties window will show you all of the properties on all of the components simultaneously. This trick provides global visibility, allowing you to identify any patterns in the names of symbol properties. You will notice that the reference design contains some useful component information like a Digi-Key part number, a component manufacturer name, and a component manufacturer part number. Designer Schematic is expecting specific property names on the symbols in order to generate a component bill of materials for uploading to the Digi-Key BOM manager. Specifically, Designer Schematic uses supplier part number, abbreviated supplier PN, for the Digi-Key part number, and manufacturer PN for the manufacturer part number. Notice that both linear text source design and Designer Schematic use manufacturer to hold the component manufacturer's name. If we were to generate a Designer Schematic bill of materials now, we would discover two key pieces of information: the total number of all components in the design and the fact that the BOM is otherwise useless. It does not contain any part number information to upload to Digi-Key. There are a number of other handy features in Designer Schematic that are useful in a first-pass design review. By using the Find dialog, I am able to quickly select all of the components in the design that do have a Digi-Key part number. This trick relies on the fact that all Digi-Key part numbers end in -ND. This simple step shows us that we have very few components that are missing a Digi-Key part number. Often, schematics don't use graphical nets to show connectivity. Using Designer Schematic, it is easy to view all of the nets with the same name by selecting the net in the design browser, which will then select all nets in the design with the same name. Finally, I want to show you a couple of those anomalies that I noticed when we looked at the PDF version of the schematic. If you look at the capacitor with multiple reference designators, we find that it is actually multiple capacitors stacked one on top of the other. More interesting, there is a design note telling us not to install this capacitor on the printed circuit board. I don't know why design instructions are buried in properties on the symbols in this design, and we will ask Linear Tech for some clues, but this does demonstrate why a design review and access to the component manufacturer are critical before you introduce design modifications or extensions. Now that we know the property names used in the Linear Tech source design, I'm going to create a new designer schematic project, and this time when I import the Linear Technology source design, I will map the Linear Tech property names to designer schematic property names. Setting up the property name mapping either requires some experimentation or knowledge about the PCB tools used to create the source design. Some PCB tools put the component property on the symbol, and some place the properties in the schematic as instance attributes. For the Linear Technologies design, the properties are placed on the symbols, and consequently we need to use the package attributes property name mapping instead of the component attributes property name mapping. Designer Schematic supports both forms of component attributes, but the default method used is to place properties on the symbol directly. An easy method to confirm that the property name mapping worked is to use the find command and do wildcard search on supplier PN. This also provides a quick method to visualize which parts are ready for BOM generation. Now, we are ready to generate a partial BOM and check the bulk of components availability and price. If you look at the generated BOM, you will notice that the first data row in the BOM has no part numbers. This line represents all of the components that do not have a Digi-Key part number yet. We will work on adding the missing information in a minute, but for now, let's upload the BOM to gain a sense of how much work we will need to do to obtain a clean BOM populated by available parts. By uploading the design BOM to Digi-Key, we can see there are a few parts that are not in stock or marked for obsolescence. Digi-Key does a very good job warning you off of parts that they know are not good picks for new designs. Digi-Key also provides a list of alternate parts when they detect appropriate matches. Digi-Key is able to provide this valuable insight because they have very tight communications with their suppliers. Getting this kind of information is very expensive for individual engineers, and Digi-Key's assistance to the design community is extremely valuable. Our adventure with reference designs has only just begun. We will be following up by publishing our complete interview with Tom Hurst, the designer schematic and layout user. We will also be following up with additional videos demonstrating advanced techniques to help you modify your reference design. Jim, Jeremy, back to you.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Excuse me there. Thanks, Dave. It's great to see how easy it was to work with Linear Technologies reference designs and how easy that slid right in there to the new designer software.
It's only going to get easier with this next release of Designer Layout and Schematic version 1.1. We've done a lot to enhance the flow to import not only third-party schematics and layouts, but PAS 9.5 version as well.
That's great. Customers have been asking about that. They've kind of been wondering, why is it taking so long? Isn't designer based off of PADS?
It is. The designer products are based on PAS Layout and XDX Designer. So it's not a format challenge, it's a design information challenge. What what properties are associated with the data? PAS 9.5, if these designs had been designed with PartQuest, it wouldn't be an issue. All the correct properties are in there, but by default, they haven't been.
Sure.
So we've taken the extra time to create a solution very similar to the import process that Dave demonstrated, just more streamlined.
That's cool. What else is the new release going to bring for premium?
Well, now that Designer has been out there a while, we've been working with some of the early adopters of Designer, people that bought it early. And we're finding that some of the open source reference designs are pushing the limits of the 1500 connection limit. So we're going to introduce and release Designer Schematic Premium and Designer Schematic Designer Layout Premium, which have unlimited connections.
Sure. So Does Designer Premium still have some of those limitations, like 6 layers and the 50 square inches?
We're keeping those limitations. We can keep our pricing low that way.
Well, that's what we're after.
So in addition to version 1.1 now being announced, pay attention to 2015. We're going to have announcements for new products associated with the Designer product line, as well as the availability of the reference design already in Designer format.
That's great. That's great. So let's go. Do we have any questions that I think we've got?
Look at the chat room. I'll take a look at the first one. Other than OrCAD, which was demonstrated, what other CAD formats can be imported into Designer Schematic and Layout? We do have multiple third parties other than the OrCAD capture and layout. We'll support bringing in Protel, PCAD, Altium, CADStar, and we also have the Eagle Schematic import as well as pads and DX Designer.
Excellent, excellent. And it looks like here's one for me. Where's the best place to find reference designs? So you can go on the Digi-Key's main site under the main page under I do believe it's Resources tab. There's a reference design library, and in the reference design library, we spent a lot of time aggregating all our vendors' reference designs, so you don't have to go to just one vendor, look it up, and you're wondering whether you're getting the right reference design for your specific needs. You can kind of go to the reference design library there and then gather all the vendors in one shot. There's 1,100 reference designs in there, and all of them have schematics in there. So I'm going to say a few of them to some of them have Gerbers, and then even a smaller number of those have actual source files, which we're working on source files, and hopefully we can get more vendors that involved in that, so we can get all the reference designs in there with actual source files. That'll help the engineers out.
It really kickstart a lot of designs.
Yeah.
Let me check. The next question. PartQuest looks like a great way to find new parts. How many parts have CAD data? Good question. So over 360,000 of the parts on the PartQuest website, the Digi-Key catalog, which is over 4 million parts, have CAD data, and Mentor is adding more CAD data all the time. And this includes the schematic symbol, the PCB footprint, and all the properties that you would need, not just to purchase, help qualify the part, net list of PCB, all the properties you'll need.
All right, looks like we got another one. Dave mentioned the BOM manager will give alternative part recommendations for parts that are not in stock. Is that viable for reference designs? So that works pretty good. I mean, there's some parts that you don't have enough information in the reference design. The engineer that created it didn't quite put enough information where the BOM manager won't pick up on all that. If you do run in this situation, or you find a part is just not in stock, go ahead and give the 1-800 number a call. Ask the person that picks up the phone, should be a salesperson, tell them you want to go to a technician. Technician will help you cross-reference or replace a part. We do it every day. We're really good at it. So with that being said, we'd like to thank you for joining our Google Hangout here, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for coming.